So let me turn off my Slack notifications. Yeah, this is my first time going live with IG Live at the same time. So it's like, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Me too. I don't even know where's the button to go live.
I know, they just threw me into the mix. Okay.
Oh, I see. It's through, I got it.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Looks like we are actually live already on Zoom.
Cool.
So if you want to start it all, if you want to hop on the IG Live, I'll go ahead and request.
And then just invite you, right?
Yep, and you can go ahead and mute your audio.
All right.
All righty. Now we are back on Zoom, which is so much easier. So, if anybody was having issues with the live stream, those of you that are already on Twitch, again, our apologies because we were trying something new today, but came across a couple issues. So, just to kind of reintroduce yourself, Gummy Beats, do you want to tell them kind of what we're going to be talking about today?
Sure. So my name is Gummy Beatz. I've been, making all kinds of genres of music, mostly hip hop, R&B, pop, for many different artists, many different TV shows, from huge TV shows like Saturday Night Live, The Voice, a lot of sports stuff, NBA, wrestling, WWE, UFC, to small independent shows or small commercials, small artists, whatever, and some that will be growing. So just kind of a variety of stuff, of just adjusting constantly to, the last 10 years, how everything has happened, and as a producer.
Nice. So, obviously you're a part of our BeatStars family. So do you want to talk about how you came across BeatStars? Like, how do you utilize it now? And just kind of how your experience has been.
I mean, it's funny. I talked to Abe probably maybe like 6 years ago or something like that. Like something, I wasn't even married yet, so I remember it was a while ago. And yeah, I remember we had like a long conversation on Skype about just I think it was just starting to build BeatStars, and there was a few competitors and all that. I actually joined BeatStars like honestly like only like 2 years ago, as far as it, and simply because I started building kits and like just it was annoying to have like all these different websites and all these different things. And I realized that everything was going mobile, and like that's the future that really allowed me. I like the mobile. I like the fact that people can stay connected, and just it's easy for me. It's easy for the customer. If there's like today, someone's like, hey, I lost the receipt. I just what's your email? I found it. Sent them another download link. So, and I did it all on my phone. So that is what I like about it, I guess.
Yeah,
The
kind of
convenience.
like the ease of doing your entire business in one. So I know you obviously make music, and I believe you sell services too on BeatStars. So what's that experience been like with the service side? Have you found it, I guess, kind of easy to be able to operate and drive some of that?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it's just, here's the beats, here's the services, here's some kits, and whatever you want to create, right? Like, it's just very convenient because people like to browse, right? People like to see like, oh, what else is here? What else is this? What's this? And it's very easy, just, and explanatory. So yeah, no, it's been definitely good.
Cool. So I kind of wanted to talk to you because obviously you've got a lot of experience getting your music placed on TV, and it's definitely another avenue for artists and musicians to be able to generate some money. So I thought we could start with talking about like kind of how your path has gotten here to making music. I know you talked a little bit about it on IG, but if you could just kind of briefly tell that story again for those who couldn't hear on Twitch. And then B, it'd be great for you to share how people can get started. Obviously, when you got started several years ago versus maybe some of the tools that are available
Yeah.
now, I'm sure things have changed. You learned some lessons. So if you just kind of want to dive into your experience with music and getting it placed on TV and how other people can get started.
Absolutely. So the biggest process is the submitting process as far as your time goes. The beauty of this is that it's not something that takes a lot of time. It's not like building an online business where it's like constantly like your name and your brand even really doesn't matter as much, because it just doesn't. Like it's all about understanding the system of how it works. So what's different now is that instead of having these companies like a HBO or like a MTV that used to buy out beats for their shows, right? Now there's a system in place, because before there was no internet, library for this. So now it's all about time and saving time for them, right? So a music supervisor who works at a specific company has he doesn't want to go and have a bunch of producers emailing him hella stuff.
Mhm.
Really, at the end of the day, like it's like everything's much faster. It's different. They don't need one person who they need to hire to make all the music. Like they just want to pay a fee, solve their problem as fast as possible, find what they need. So they already have agreements with licensing libraries, sync licensing companies. depending how big or small they are, right? Like it's kind of up to them to go and find their clients, but they'll have an agreement. They're all different. I'm sure each one is very individual depending on the volume of music that they license. I'm sure they have different deals, but they'll go into a database of a library. So for example, Jingle Punks is a great company that I've worked with for many years. You guys can go check them out. That's a little gem for you right there where you can go and sign up. And they're now an exclusive library. Exclusive means that they pay more, but the music needs to be exclusive to them. Most other libraries are non-exclusive, but you can divide that. That just depends on how much music you have. Because I know a lot of you guys have like hundreds of beats sitting on your hard drive not doing anything. You know, so it's a chance for you to like, you know, do something with it. And the point is to submit it, you know, and if they like it, it enters a library. So, and then the music supervisor from, let's just say ESPN, he'll go in and there'll be, you know, tens of thousands of tracks of all genres in this library. And he goes, depending on what it is, maybe like, let's say it's an ESPN scene and it's St. Patrick's Day. And they're doing some jokes because they always joke around on all that ESPN stuff. And it's like Shaq or whatever. And it's like, they need like some Irish music, for example. It might even be Irish hip hop, right? So they'll literally type in Irish hip hop song, you know, or something of that matter. And then, you know, whatever, 14 songs will pop up, or whatever it may be. And then they can go and press play, or they can search by tempo, depending on how complicated the search system is. But they can find exactly what they need. They see the fee, they pay it because they're ESPN. Like, this isn't about stealing beats, like they're a billion-dollar company, right? So that's exactly what they do. And then they license it and boom, problem solved for them. They got exactly what they need and, you know, easy for you. And so the point, and if it's not exclusive, that song that you made can get licensed again, and again. So the game is that when you make specific music, it's not only about having good music, it's about having music that fits. Yesterday when we were talking, yesterday I told you I had a beat called Ding Dong, right? And it's literally ding dong, it's a doorbell. It's not a beat. It's literally this 5-second, like, I don't know, I think I got the sound from GarageBand and just like added some effects to it, you know? It was super old. And like, I was like, I had a day where I was like, let me make a bunch of like sound effects and like little quick transitionary stuff. Cause when you watch TV, there's all that kind of stuff. And it got licensed in like Housewives of Atlanta. It plays like, I don't know, like 400 times because it's literally like every, like whatever, I don't know why they even use it, but for whatever reason it fit. So it's about, you know, that's not a good piece of music. It's just the sound. So it's not only about making great music, but making music that fits. Certain genres, certain time periods are very important. The deeper you go into this, and what's cool is like how I did it, I'd be like, okay, like, you know, this month I'm working on like these ideas. You know, I'd see some like, okay, let me do some old school stuff. Look at all these, you know, documentaries of Tupac, Biggie, all that stuff. The stuff that's needed for that is 90s beats, not today's. They're not going to put a Juice WRLD type beat in a documentary of Tupac, right? So they're going to need something like a West Coast feel, right? And they're not going to pay Dr. Dre $40,000 for a license fee to use that, most likely, unless it's Dr. Dre being involved. So they'd rather pay a couple $100 of a license fee to use a West Coast beat that sounds like Chronic, and literally title it Chronic. Dr. Dre 90s beat, like simple, like, and you know, depending, you know, the libraries, like some of them aren't as detailed, but some of them have like really, really detailed genres to where, so the customer or the music licensor the supervisor can find exactly what they need. So, yeah,
so it's a matter then of like really understanding, like what's your process? Do you listen? Like I heard you say that sometimes you make sound effects, sometimes you watch old documentaries or things like that and come up, like, what's your process? Do you let, as a creative, whatever kind of you feel like working on, or do you sit there and think like, okay, I know in the next, you know, few months, let's say, not Leprechaun's Day, what's the name? St. Patrick's Day. You guys, I need coffee today. St. Patrick's Day is coming up, so let me come up with some beats that could be placed for that. Like, what's your process and structure? Because I think you've done a really great job of explaining kind of how the process works, but what's your kind of internal process?
So, I mean, with creative, I think most of the times I turn, you know, my keyboard on if I'm in the mood to do you know, some keys or something. I'll do whatever I'm in the mood for. But sometimes, and a lot of these companies, like I'll get emails periodically, like every 2-3 months, where they'll be like, hey, we just booked this client. We need a bunch of this type of music, right? Because understand that any company that is doing a bunch of ESPN stuff, like their goal is to sell. They're a business. They're not like discriminative or like sticking to specific genres. It's whoever they meet. So it's like, sometimes they'll be like, hey, we just booked this new show. It's about blah, blah, blah. We need this kind of music. So then I'll go and like, if it's a new show that hasn't even aired yet, you know, I'm kind of like researching it if it's based on, you know, a previous book or whatever. Like I'm seeing similar stuff. So like I actually do watch. I enjoy film a lot as well, and I'll watch and I'll pay attention to stuff that's needed in certain themes. I listen to a lot of world music just even since I was a kid. I really enjoy it, and I think world music is one of the biggest genres because when you're building a catalog of stuff, the biggest thing is about the more genres you do that are, I guess, where the time doesn't really matter. For example, if it's, you know, Indian music, it's going to be Indian music forever. So that piece, it's worth your time to take, you know, to learn that kind of music. And by the way, you can use loops. Like you can go on Splice, type in, like, for example, like I always tell people, like, I hate like all that EDM dance music. I just like, I don't like the energy. It's not, but I can make it, you know, like I'll go and I'll see like, hey, we're looking, you know, there's a show, it's gonna be a lot of dance music. Like, I'll go on Splice and download a bunch of, you know, royalty-free sounds, right? And use them, Lego it together, make a little 90-second, you know, EDM track, structure it right, study the music, obviously, so I know how to do it. But, and then I'll go and I'll, you know, submit 10 tracks like that. And those tracks can, you know, make money for years. If it's world music, right? Something ethnic, Asian, whatever it may be, it's always needed because National Geographic is going to be doing something on pandas or the Great Wall of China, or I don't know, and they're going to need some kind of stuff.
Leprechauns.
Yeah, if it's leprechauns. And there's also like medleys like with it, right? Because now with hip hop, since hip hop is today's pop culture, they need that kind of stuff mixed with that, right? Like think about, and especially like on VH1, like a lot of the stuff, they'll be like, for example, if they're doing like a documentary about Beyonce, for example, or something, right? And they might be talking about her days when it's like that song with Shakira or something where it's like, it's got that Scott Storch sound, you know? They're gonna need something like that, you know? I have a beat called Candy Shop. It sounds very similar to Candy Shop. But when they're doing something for that, like there's a club scene or it's about that, they aren't gonna license Candy Shop. They need something similar. So right there. So it's like fitting stuff in like that, you know?
So how
That's
much
kind of
of
the process.
the research process goes into the music you make as far as like studying? Because you said like you're not necessarily a fan of EDM and you're doing all this world music, which I know you mentioned Indian music and things like that. How much, at least with you, have you had to really put in time with studying these genres and the sounds that are used to compile something together?
A lot. I mean, it's every day, you know, even like with this quarantine stuff, like, you know, I've been playing piano for a long time. And even like, I learned probably like 15 new chords this week. And it's something that I forced myself to do. Like totally, like I've been learning a lot of gospel stuff, which is really hard, actually, really crazy chords. And it's not something that like I ever even thought about, you know, but it's just something that I want to expand and learn more and more. So like, it's just something I'm into, you know, as a musician constantly, because you begin to repeat yourself. And that's what happened. Just like I know you guys are out there, like, you know, you subconsciously after a few months, you'll go to Omnisphere and you'll choose that same sound. And you'll begin to repeat. Like sometimes I'll even notice my hands go to like the same key, you know, chords. And it's like, all right, yeah, I need to learn something new. I need to mix it up. So I'm just into that, you know, like.
Yeah, is that how you stay refreshed? Like, especially with you creating so much music consistently, I can imagine it's easy to maybe even feel like you've ran out of ideas. Is it a matter of like just studying more sounds and getting familiar with everything that exists? Or do you ever have to take breaks and kind of creatively refresh? Or how's that been for you?
Um, Rarely. I think I just have a very well balanced life overall. And like it's like the balance of the business side, the balance of the creative side, your health. I mean, there's always something you can be doing. Like you know, last few days I kind of been like, it's been nice weather. I've been like walking around, kind of because we've been sitting inside a lot. So I've been like walking a lot and just like listening to like marketing shows and podcasts and stuff. You know, so like you can take a break, a day and a half from music, go do something totally different that's still productive for you or your business or whatever you need for you. and then, you know, come right back. So it all, like I always say, it all evens out at the end of the month, and especially at the end of the year. Like, you don't know, just like certain companies make all their money on Black Friday, right? So it just all evens out. So you can always find something to be productive for you, whether it's creatively, whether it's for your health, mentally. I mean, literally like 24 hours a day, there's always something you can be doing. So I think
Yeah.
when you start finding that balance and finding those avenues, because you have to go and dig for this stuff. You have to go and dig. And some people, like in their turmoil, they just want to come home from work and, you know, play some video games for an hour and a half and pass out. And that's cool. Like, you can have a day or two like that. Like, I get it. You know, we're all people. But in between, like, the more you start getting excited about these things, you will find, like, you have to experiment and find how you are wired and how your brain works, you know?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, that's a good point because everybody, there are some people who can work all day, all night. There are people who just kind of need more balance, and maybe some people who would like to do this here and there. So I think it's a matter of figuring out what works for you. And especially as you're going into something, like I feel like when I've talked to a lot of music producers or artists, like even with the story that you said, like, this is something that was a hobby and they became good at and they turned into a career, which is great. But sometimes when you focus too much on working 24/7, it can feel like a job, and that passion can be lost behind
Mm-hmm.
it, which translates into music. So I think it's really good that you said that. Now, with your experience in getting thousands of songs placed, well, for one, it'd be great to tell the people that are watching, and again, some of the audio cut out on Twitch earlier, some of the shows that you got your music placed on in the past.
Where has it been?
Hmm.
Um, Honestly, like, so like The Voice, Saturday Night Live, that was pretty cool. Like last year that happened because that's like something I actually watched a lot when I was a young kid. You know, hundreds of episodes of ESPN, NBA TV, WWE, whatever the wrestling shit is called now, UFC. So a lot of sports stuff because I do a lot of energetic kind of stuff. And then like Love and Hip Hop, done all the episodes pretty much, at least a beat in every episode. So a lot of like stuff on BET, like the reality shows, a lot of the MTV stuff, MTV Cribs. That's kind of old. I don't know if that was a while ago.
Is that show?
Um, so yeah,
So
a lot
what
of
would
stuff.
be,
And then yeah, like in between, like just random like clients that I don't even know. Like sometimes there'll be like some weird thing of like overseas, right? It'll be like a Brazilian show. Or like I did a lot of stuff for like, you know that do you know that in California, Telemundo, the Spanish
mhm,
news is the most watched news in California, like more than CNN, more
surprising?
than
Wow.
a lot of people don't know that. So it's like the Hispanic game as well with, you know, obviously a lot of, what are they called? Novelas,
Hmm.
right? So that's huge because it's just, it's millions and millions of people viewing that and all these different shows and all that stuff. I've done stuff with that as well. So the international market's really interesting too, because what's cool is that a show might not be you know, will release in America and then it might not be as popular for whatever reason, but overseas, for whatever reason, it just becomes super popular. Maybe because some network picked it up and there was no choice because it's 4.5 channels, you know, and so that's interesting. And then like a lot of times the international checks royalties are more than the domestic ones on ASCAP for specific shows because whether they have to charge them more, or I don't know what that is, or just aired more. So that's interesting too.
Hmm. So how did you get, we got a question from DJ SEMAJ206, and he said, how did you get your first placement? We've talked a lot about your experience, but
Mhm.
where did it all start? Like, what was that moment like? Were you
Yeah, I
expecting it?
cried,
Was it
man.
something you were just
I
trying?
wrote. So yeah, it was like I was living in LA. I was barely making it by, like just like randomly doing custom tracks, and I was submitting all this stuff for, like for a year, you know. And you don't hear nothing because it takes so long, and you just keep submitting. And like I got accepted into a few libraries, and I would be uploading stuff, and still just like I stayed motivated. I'd be uploading as much as I possibly could when they would allow it. So like when you get accepted into a library, usually they might start you off with like 5 or 10 tracks, and they'll be like, okay, you know, this month you can upload this much. So you upload it, and then it might be like, you know, a couple months before you can upload again, depending on just the volume of how much stuff they're getting. It always changes. They can close it up, but it's that consistency, and it's very hard to stay motivated when nothing's happening, no one's there to motivate you. You don't know what the hell's going on. And so, yeah, I was just doing this for like a year and like nothing. And then I remember I got an email. I was stuck in LA traffic. It was hot. My car was like over. I mean, everything was just. And I remember I checked my phone. It was like a BlackBerry at the time. And yeah, I got an email saying, "Hey man, your music got placed on." It was the roast of Donald Trump. The irony of it. It was the roast of Donald Trump at Comedy Central.
Wow.
It was that, and that was my first placement. Weirdly, and yeah, I just like it was a combination of like I was in LA at this studio or like this studio. It was like hella ghetto and shit, and like just it was this terrible experience, and like I was just stressed like coming home and like everything just bought, like all this hate, all this energy. And then finally I'm like, oh my God, finally I've been waiting for like 2 years and finally this happened. Like I didn't even, that was my first place. And basically I cried. Like I didn't care how much money I made or anything. I literally cried because there's just so much of just built up of submissions and parallel to this, it's not like I'm also like working with songwriters, trying to get stuff placed and like, you're this close all the time with that songwriter game. It's like you have these songs. It's like Chris Brown recorded the song. Oh, but it didn't make the album because he's 300 songs that he recorded. And there was just these constant like situations like that I'm like I'm this close. But so that was like kind of a point. And then after that, just they came in like after that placement, like 20 came that following month, and then it just fucking snowballed because of just that like consistency. And then of course it got me more motivated to then grind even more because now I actually saw all that. And then like the first check was like $390, like whatever, some odd cents, my first royalty check. And then it started getting to the thousands. So yeah, that was the first.
Yeah, that's interesting because I can imagine like with everything in music, you guys have to put in a lot of work. And at some point, like for those of us who aren't in music as like business people, I can't imagine working for 2 years and not, as a business person, not bringing something in. And that just shows like the motivation that you have and the belief you have in yourself. And I feel like people have to have that, like believe in your talent, keep putting in the work. And then at some point it's going to pay off. And like you said, you, after a couple of years, got your first, big TV placement, and then it just started rolling in. So it has to have a little bit of persistence, I guess, in order to sometimes see results.
Very persistent. It's just about believing. I think just keeping the faith. And there's so many things that I had to prove to everyone around me because I dropped out of school, and like I'm sure everyone goes through that. Like, and like parallel, you got these, your friends are graduating, you see whatever the fuck, and you're like, yeah, I'm still like, and they look down. It's like there's no support, and there never will be. So it's just you and God. And you have to find that faith. You have to have something that drives you and keeps you going.
Sure. So what would be your kind of like basic tips and tricks? Because we've gotten some questions like about how important song structure is, and like is there particular genres? What would be some tips and tricks that you could share with people on, I guess, how to get songs placed potentially faster? Obviously, it's always up to the other half, the other party to pick your song, but some things that you've learned that can be implemented by everybody watching.
As far as structure goes, to go in order, most of the stuff that I submit is like if you go on my BeatStars and hear that catalog, that's pretty much the majority of the stuff. Like all that gets submitted, just 3-4 minutes typical track, because they'll just take like pieces of it, usually 30 seconds. So that's pretty basic, unless it's a specific. So there's a structure called a stinger or a sting, where it can be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, where basically it's the interval to intros and outros of them going to commercial and stuff like that, or something that needs to have an ending where it's like boing, like something like that, or like a big boom. So that's when you'll go and actually construct stuff like that. But don't think that all genres are needed, all styles of music, because you don't, like, for example, like I always say, like Love and Hip Hop is my biggest catalog. I made a lot of money. I bought this place pretty much from that. And that was just timing, where at that moment, they landed that client, and I just uploaded like I think 80 to 100 hip hop beats. and R&B, so love and hip hop. And I had no idea what the hell this show was at first, because it wasn't, no one knew it was gonna blow up and like all the social media around it and season, you know, whatever the hell it's on in Atlanta, Hollywood, Miami, and I have on all that because I just became the go-to guy. And then it happens where it's not just one beat, you all of a sudden you're getting 5-10 beats placed in every episode, times 20 episodes, times 8 seasons. That really adds up. And then it's like on Netflix, or I don't think it's on Netflix, but whatever it's streaming on, Hulu or whatever. I don't have that stuff. So you never know how popular the show gets because of social media. And then like for now, the stuff on YouTube, you get money for that. So like on my ASCAP check right now, there's, aside from like the actual TV part of it, there's Netflix, Hulu, PlayStation, Xbox, YouTube, Amazon, and then Amazon Prime, also separate, right? And whatever the hell else streaming service there is, right? So they're collecting that. So like if there's a clip of on some BET show on BET, the YouTube channel, and the music's there, you're getting money from that.
Wow.
So
It's not even like sometimes with one placement, you can almost have multiple streams of revenue within that one placement.
And then when you have a beat that it just fits. So like a lot of stuff, I always say there's a couple of beats that are like in different genres, by the way. I have one that's just like a piano hip hop beat that's made a lot of money. It's called piano hip hop beat, by the way, pretty much something like that. And it just fits, right, for whatever genre, right? The club stuff, the up tempo stuff, you know, it fits. So and now even the type beat stuff, because understand what's the future. Let's talk a little bit just to segue, because everything that people are gonna be submitting in 2012 will probably air in 2021, right? So like you got to think about that, because like you got to see like, okay, what is airing, what is trending, right? And so Juice WRLD, let's just take him for example, right? Because he's, you know, for the generation of kids who are, you know, 19 right now or whatever, that was a huge part of their high school, right? Or that kind of style of music, right? Even like the whole emo, hip hop, whatever style. So that, you know, is gonna, in 5 years, will be very needed, because they're gonna do a documentary on him. They're gonna need all that kind of stuff. It's just gonna be that genre. So now the whole type beat thing, like they might even type in like Juice WRLD type beat, because they're like, oh, we need something in that style. I have a beat called Lady Gaga Goes to the Club. You know, it sounds like fucking Lady Gaga is going to the club.
Yeah, good
So
way.
it sounds like a Lady Gaga beat, and it's made a good amount of money. It's been licensed, you know, over 50 times because, and there's nothing special about it. I mean, it's a solid beat, but it just fits. It was even in Lady Gaga's documentary on VH1, simply because they probably typed in Lady Gaga, you know, club, right? And it fits. So like what you title your tracks is extremely important, because that's how they search. So understanding from the back end side how it happens. It's not just like with anything, you can have the most, I always see like guys who have amazing music, amazing beats, but don't get heard, because before someone clicks play, they see you, right? They see everything around it. Why should they click play? Is it the covers, whatever? In this specific case, there's no cover. They don't really care about your name. It's the name of the title of the song. So it fits in what they're searching. And then they're gonna, because they're like seeing all these names. They're searching by tempo, right? Certain things are technical, right? Whether it's a specific instrument, whether it's tempo, they're like, okay, just like how on Splice, you can be like, I need it from 80 to 90 BPM, right? So it's a similar thing. So all these details from the back end is how you start getting hundreds of placements, not just because you have good music, but you understand the system, you know, and studying how it changes constantly, right? Because everything now is just about convenience. It always has been really, but even more. So help them solve their problems. They need good music, right? They need music that fits whatever they're doing. So, you know, be consistent with it.
Yeah.
And build a
You
catalog.
mentioned music, let's say in 2012 being placed in 2021. How do you find that balance? Because I heard you say earlier that also sometimes you'll study, you know, older documentaries or things like that, because that music's ever evolving. Is the best thing to do like not create a sound that's current with the time, something that can, you know, last, but then at the same time, like how do you know what kind of sounds will last? Like what's been your structure, being
You
that some
won't.
of these songs might not get placed for years?
I mean, you gotta just have a faith, like exist for who you exist for. You know, don't go and waste time like trying to study rock music if you have no idea about, if it's not interesting to you, whatever, and like go like do what you do. Like there's enough work for everybody. There really is. Like there's people, another thing people understand is like when you and I were kids or whatever, there was even like 70 channels, 100 channels, right? Kind of, which is a lot already compared to, you know, our parents' times, whatever. But now there's like Netflix releases an entire fucking show every month, like filmed, ready, like 20 episodes, like hours of footage, right? So how many other Netflix are there worldwide, first of all? Because each country, in Russia, there's 5 streaming services that is like a Netflix, you know, on top of Netflix and all the other stuff that people can get, right? So think about that in every country. Then think about the YouTube game. There's people on YouTube who have more hits than like Fox, you know? So they're licensing music. The legalities is also very interesting because more and more things are being able to get tracked and all that. So, and if someone is making money, if everyone has their budget. I have several people who do small independent films, and sometimes they'll either do films, they'll do mini documentaries, or they'll do commercials for local businesses. So they've done stuff for like a pizza parlor, a law firm, like a real estate, you know, thing. And I'll charge, and this is stuff that I've done myself, like just as I sell beats to artists, I also find these people, because what's comfortable is like, hey, they need new music. So, and I'll charge them like $100 flat, just like my unlimited license track out fee, you know, just as I would, because they're not distributing it on a huge level. It's for their website, it's for their YouTube. So you just charge a flat fee. In that case, you get the upfront fee. I'm not gonna like get royalties from their Facebook ad commercial. That's, you know, it's not about that. So you just charge the fee up front. So you know what to do. When it's like the big stuff, you get the royalties in the back end. Sometimes there's also front end as well, where they will give you some up front, and then on the back end, that's already decided by the licensing company, and, you know, just whatever their agreement is, and depending on how many beats they get. But, you know, there's so many avenues. So more and more stuff is being filmed. Like think about the future. Like you can make a movie with the iPhone and win a fucking, you know, award, right? A Sundance. So in reality, it's all about that, and they all need music. So it's cheaper to produce film. There was an interesting story. I forgot the name of the movie. It's like this dude in the Bay Area. Basically, he rented a camera and equipment. He found actors for free on Craigslist. He made this horror movie for $10,000, basically, in Berkeley. And in like a year and a half, it was online, just out and about. And somehow got on some website, got like millions of views. And then, you know, a big company said, hey, we like this. Here's $1 million. Let's make a sequel. You know, so, and this is happening all the time in every country. Like everything, it all needs music.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you said you did some real estate stuff and have built relationships with those type of people, because it just shows that it's kind of cool that your catalog and your stream of revenue is so diverse. Like within film and TV, there's all these subgenres, and within the artists that you work with, and then there's like the regular people in business too, like the real estate. So I think that's a really great segue, because I'd like to play some of the songs that you've gotten placed before, show them with the people watching, and then maybe you can talk a little bit more about the story behind that.
Sure.
Cool. So you guys, the very first video we're gonna show, Gummy Beatz. This looks like the one that was the Usain Bolt placement. So do you want to talk a little bit more after I finish this about how you got to it? Let me share my screen.
Play it first.
Okay, cool. Let me turn it up for you guys.
I tell you what, well, she'll remember that moment, won't she? Bolt's impressive victory in 9.79 should have been the memory we took from this race. Instead, it was that full frontal flower girl collision that we remember most. Later that season, the big man picked up the Diamond Trophy at the finals in Brussels. In fact, it was the only diamond he seriously attempted to achieve during his illustrious career.
So So with that beat, somebody
Okay.
asked, did you name it Olympic gold medal type beat? Like for one, how did that placement come to be? And do you remember making this beat and how you structured it and labeled it when you uploaded it?
That beat's called The Anthem. So The Anthem, I didn't like, I envisioned it was probably like, and that beat's probably like 5 years old. 4 or 5 years old. I don't know the exact date, but I don't even remember making it, honestly, as much. So, but I remember it was kind of like, it's got like a kind of like a T.I. feel, like if I assumed the rapper would be on it, whatever. And and it's just the structure, right? Like the build where it's like it kind of, there's the strings and everything, right? Then the drums come in. Really just like think of like a T.I. song, like kind of an older T.I. song, really, from years ago, or like a Jeezy song, like it kind of got that Atlanta feel. And then just, the build up, right? And the hi-hats coming in and all that. And, it fits actually really well with that piece of film. Because it depends. Sometimes music's just in the back and it's kind of like, it's just kind of, that was actually like part of actually, it really fit well, right? And then him winning, and it's like this thing. So like, I mean, if you feel that, and with sports, a lot of stuff is needed, like anthems, championship type feel, because that will get placed a lot, and that beat's been placed in other stuff as well. It's just the clip that I was able to find.
Cool.
But same thing, it's just that beat's in several libraries. It was on, I've leased it before on my site, I'm sure. So right there, like creating multiple avenues of, making money on a specific piece of music, on one beat, right?
Right.
So that's the game. It's just the mindset is just changing, and realize that, someone could have, sold that beat. I mean, whether you're selling the beat for $200 because you need $200, like that's the grind. Like it's just sometimes you do that, and sometimes the beat makes a lot of money and keeps making money, But I think it's about getting to all these different avenues. Like trust what your path is, right? Like I had no idea this TV stuff would be my thing. Like that's not. At the time, I was like, man, I just want to produce for Busta Rhymes, but I still haven't produced for Busta Rhymes. So. It's like at some point you just trust, like, okay, but like I've created these different stream of income where I'm comfortable, I'm able to travel, like, and it's about choosing the lifestyle, and seeing, other producers who are doing industry stuff, but they're stressed because whether they're working with people that they don't want to work with, or the money's, always, we always hear about producers not getting paid. So the beauty of one thing that I like, in 10 years, I've been paid for everything. I've never had an issue, because a big company like that, they're not sure, why would they want to steal a beat? Like they have the money to pay for it. There's no and they're licensing it non-exclusively. So there's no ownership to fight for. They're paying a fee, they're using it, problem solved, we need music. Our budget is, $5,000 for this 40 minutes of music for our episode. We pay whatever, $150 per sync, whatever, and then after it airs, boom. It's just either we agree with it or we do not, right? And then it happens a lot of times. So that's the goal.
Cool. So this next beat we're gonna play, it looks like it's a real estate video. So we'll share this with you guys, and then Gummy Beats, we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
How did that come to be? Is that one of those relationships that you approached?
Yeah.
Or did they find that in a library?
That's someone that I've been working with for quite a long time now at this point. And I mean, randomly, he just started buying beats from me. I just kept noticing like this person was buying beats. I'm like, oh, who is this person? And he's like, oh, check it out. I do like basically, and this was an interesting time where, you know, he does all kinds of different type of film, but usually, you know, the little, what is it called? The helicopter, the drone stuff. And so he does a lot. He works for this real estate company as well, and they need these videos, you know, and of course they need music for it. So, you know, to make, and by the way, like, I know it lagged a little bit there, but like, that was like a super fucking trap beat. That was like some Migos type shit, you know, and it's like a apartment in San Francisco. So like, understand that like, right today, that's the stuff to like, the scenes for that could have been like some elegant jazz music, really. And they're like, oh, but like, it's different, you know, like his approach is also like, they want something different and not boring, right? Because they're targeting, you know, maybe a 30-year-old couple who's gonna buy that house, and they're listening to the Migos now, you know? So understanding that shift. And then, yeah, so I actually met up with him because I noticed he just like be buying consistent beats. So I was like, hey, like, you know, he showed me some of the videos and I was like, oh, this is cool. And he, when I flew to San Francisco, I had lunch with him and stuff and got to, you know, that was someone where I was like, hey, I want to find out like what else you're doing. Like, what is this? Because at the time, it was so new to me. Like, wait, because usually it was just artists. And then that's when I started like, yo, I can link up with like other filmmakers and like reach out and do that and charge them a similar fee. And they're very professional because he has a budget of, you know, he's getting paid, you know, $500 to $1,000 per video that he's making. So he can take, you know, 100 of that and pay for the music. So that's included within his budget because he's solving a problem for his client where it's like, hey, we need, and what he does, he's like, he goes in and in 48 hours, the video's done, the music, everything's edited. So the client's like, cool, we have a new property for sale. We need this video. He comes in Monday, it's ready. You know, he does it over the weekend. Cool, they got it on their website. So like you can be unique and come together to start, like, whether it's a marketing company, whether it's someone who like is starting to realize like, you know, we need small videos. Everyone needs music. It can be locally, start locally, hit them up and say, hey, give your music for free at first. Who cares? It doesn't cost you nothing. Build relationships and later on be like, hey, look, I gave you 5 free songs, like to use, look, I charge $100 flat fee, or, you know, we can do a bulk deal or something if you're doing a lot of stuff, like make it affordable, but then you're creating, you know, these other avenues that no one's thinking of really. They just, so all the stuff just kind of like, it comes to me and I'm like, huh, like I didn't even realize. And like in every city, there's probably like 50 of these type of dudes. He's not the only fucking guy in San Francisco who's making, you know, videos, right? So yeah, it's just like interesting fields where that's opening up where you could license it to, you know, not just big shows, but, you know, smaller people, and it adds up.
Yeah.
It all adds up.
Cool. Well, we're going to share with you guys one more video that Gummy Beatz is going to talk about. And for those of you that are asking questions, we are going to end with a Q&A. So just know I'm seeing them. I'm going to ask him as many as we can. But for now, we're going to play this next song and you can tell us how that story came to be. So this video is a little bit longer, you guys. So I'm going to play
you don't need to play the whole thing. Just play like 20 seconds of it.
yeah. I'll play about a minute of it and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. So this is the next video.
I wonder how you fit it all in them jeans. I hit it right now, you falling for me. My favorite outfit when you naked. Money chest, man, we never chase it. Diamonds in the straight. He said we gon' take shots of the honey till we faded. Come in, little baby, I love your sex in the morning. All of this money will have you flexing and ballin'. You know them haters stay with you when you walkin'. Cause we some VIP, very important. Middle of summer, but my eyes stay frozen. Dancing on me, you got my mind going romance. I'm tryna leave with you, baby, you stallin'. Give you this good love, but don't be fallin'. Give you this good love, but now we fallin'. She fell for why now she's out there calling. Give you this good love and now we falling. She fell for our rude boy and now she's calling.
So obviously has a really big artist like Tori, who is killing it during quarantine. You guys don't know I'm a Tori stan. So Gummy, do you want to talk about how that song came to be? How that
Yeah,
relationship was
it's kind of a
established?
success story for you guys, actually. So yeah, first, it just, it was a beat that I made with my bro OT Beats. It's called Summer Fun, and it was a little bit different beat. I don't do a lot of dance hall stuff, but it was just like this melody. It was actually on my computer for like 6 months. Just like I didn't know what to do with it. I just had this melody. I had some of the drums, whatever, and I thought it was going to be kind of like a DJ Mustard style kind of beat. That's kind of what I usually would do. And I was like, I was tired of those. And I just sent it to my homie OT Beats, and he made like a dance hall beat out of it. And I was like, okay, this is different. And I just put it up on the website and like at least a couple of times. And one of the people at least it was Nave Smalls. But I had no idea who this guy was at the time because he's like a UK artist on the come up at the time. And it was like, I had no idea. And then after they messaged a few months later, they're like, hey, how much for exclusive rights? And this whole time I have no idea who this person is. I just you just see an email, right? So I'm just like, okay, this is what I charge, da 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 da. And they're like, okay, cool, let's do this. And so they sent the payment, everything. And then they're like, a few months went by and they're like, hey, this is gonna be the single. We got Tory Lanez on the feature, everything. Like we need to do like a publishing contract, everything. So, I went, I know enough about all the stuff to know, percentages and all that. And so it was a very fair deal where I charged the upfront fee and then, got money on the back end as well. So it was a pretty good deal for me because usually that beat would have just, sold exclusively maybe or wouldn't have made as much money on my site. So, and of course, yeah, like the story behind it. So like, that's cool. Like how it was, they leased it first. So even an artist like that leased it first, they might lease songs they're writing. And then that was, after they write all these songs, they're like, okay, these are going on the album, okay, we're getting the feature. We need the, exclusive rights to it. And so that's pretty much how that happened. And I was just like, yeah, and the video dropped and I was like, oh shit, dope.
Yeah,
That
that's
was like my
exciting.
first real, like quote unquote real like major artist placement, whatever that is. Cause I produced for a lot of underground stuff or like also it's the single. So, got like 5 million plays. I'm sure got, millions of streams. So it was cool just to see like, that was the first time like experiencing how that happens,
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Like it started out being leased and then exclusive. Like you just never really know where a particular beat can take you sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. You just gotta trust, your path. And I think it's just persistency and consistency and whatever else ends with C. Where it's just like you're there, you're staying consistent, like, you're always driving traffic because someone who, right now is listening to your stuff is gonna be, somebody in several years. And it's a question of like, do those songs make it? What relationships do you build? And now it's like, I'm cool with the manager. So, I can send more stuff. I've collaborated with it's like, even if I made no money off it, and thank God I did, but it would connect, it just opened up a whole new door, right? Naturally and organically. And I've like, met other producers who were on that project. I was like, hey man, you produced on that. Like, let's make some more stuff. Like I did that song, like, oh, dope, man. Like already, it's a natural, and we already know what we're working towards, So that's also what's really cool about that.
Cool. Well, we've gotten quite a few questions. So you guys, like I said, keep putting them in the chat, and we'll be sure to ask them until we run out of time. But the first question I want to ask you comes from M7K Productions, and he asked if you've had many tracks shelved after submitting. I know you talked about some being exclusive libraries, some being non-exclusive. So with the exclusive libraries that you've worked with, have you seen a lot of those tracks shelved or even with the non-exclusive too?
Shelved?
In the sense that you've put them out, but they haven't necessarily gone anywhere?
I'm sure that there's some, there's just so many that I probably forgot about them if they got shelved, like at the end of the day, I think it's a numbers game. It's such a numbers game. But always like sometimes it'll be some random one that's from 2 years ago. And the one for Saturday Night Live was a beat I made, several, I couldn't even find it because there was actually some questions about it. There was basically there was a lawsuit in it. Luckily it got all worked out, but I had to like go look up the beat and I was like, I don't even remember making it. They thought that there was like a sample used in it, but it was a loop and I had to like, it was all that stuff. So it was basically someone saw that there was some money made off it, so they tried to get a piece of it. But it didn't work out in the end. And the beauty of it legally, it's not even they're the ones have to get sued, not you. So like the licensing company is responsible for all that essentially, and they have the money to, you know, if it was a split or something, but it got worked out. But so you just never, I think it's a numbers game. Like you just don't know, like just how you make a beat right now, you're like, man, this shit is fire. Like I'm about to, you know, and you have no idea. Just like with that last placement, like I had no expectation on that beat. I was like, oh, I was happy they got leased. I was like, oh shit, $100. Cause like, this is not, I don't do a lot of dance hall stuff, or what I didn't at that time. So it wasn't like my customer base, you know? But now it's opened up a whole new customer base because of that song, people are coming to me saying, yo, you know, I want tracks like that, you know, and a lot of UK artists especially. So it opened up the whole international. I mean, I've been like seeing the international side, but even more like with the UK, a lot of people are like, yo, we want a track just like that, you know, basically. So I did like custom tracks and that kind of stuff.
Nice. Well, Vinyl 704 asks, would you suggest exclusive libraries or non-exclusive libraries?
I mean, overall, I would suggest non-exclusive libraries, especially, I think it just depends on the volume of music that you're doing. Because yeah, if you're non-exclusive, you can still sell it on B-Stars, you can still, you know, do whatever, and you have the freedom. But understand that you can always pull a track out. So like, if it's an exclusive library, and let's say you send it out to some artist and there's a situation where there's a placement, you just email them or say, hey, I need this track taken out of your library. Like, that's it, it's simple as that. So it's not some, you know, like worry about you. Do what you need to do. Like they're not worried about you. So
do what's best for you.
Yeah.
Another question we got is when you are uploading these songs for TV and film placements, do you just upload the composition or do you have to upload the steps as well?
So it depends on what their rules are. So even they'll say what format is needed. Like some of them want 48-bit or 48-bit. So they'll tell you the exact format. Sometimes they want track outs in a specific way where it's not tracked out how we send to artists, but like it'll be like drums, music, and if there's vocals or whatever separate, so they can go and like cut pieces up because they might edit it. So it just depends. But they all, you know, but usually it's just the wave file. Usually it's the master wave and that's it.
Okay.
For the most part.
Cool. So what because I heard you say, to my understanding, you have to get accepted into these libraries. So what was your process like? Did you have to apply multiple times? Is it just a matter of like, what does that process look like? What did it look like for you? Do you have to upload a catalog of beats? Do you submit one? How does that work?
Well, with each company, they have, you know, depending on what their rules are, but usually you send like 2 tracks, MP3 or, you know, links, like streaming links to SoundCloud or whatever. Make sure they're untagged, of course, like don't, all that. And so the first point is to get into a library, like to get accepted, right? The second point is after already, when you get accepted, they'll send you a contract, you know, if it's non-exclusive, like, I mean, like this is a job, like you'll fill out, you know, Social Security, you'll fill out all your information, like your tax information, like they send you a 1099 at the end of the year, which you have to go and file taxes. Like I just, you know, just did that not long ago. So it's all very official like that, you know, because they're legally, I mean, they're making millions of dollars. So, and they have all these artists under them who they're, you know, signing essentially. So, did I answer the question? I think.
Yeah, no, I think you did.
So like, yeah, and then again, you get denied. Like if you get denied, you know, like it's creating a system. You get like you get an email saying, sorry, you know, your music didn't fit or whatever. You're like, okay, cool. Like back to the drawing board. In 6 to 8 weeks, I'm submitting again. I mean, maybe submit some different stuff. Submit from a different email. Go make an ASCAP for your grandma's name. Like hustle. Like a lot of the stuff. Like I think that it's like it's this illusion that the world creates that there's all this publishing and all this shit, you know, it's a fucking game. It's an illusion, just like laws and everything that exists. And is there a virus or is there not a virus, and whatever is going on, you know, you like figure it out, like submit from another name, like knock doors down. Don't take no for an answer, because what does it matter? Go, you know, take your grandma's Social Security. I mean, obviously ask your grandma, but be like, hey, can I open up an ASCAP with my grandma's name and double my chances to submit, or from another email? Triple your chances. Go use your brother's account. Like, get creative.
So what is the competition like with these libraries? Is there high competition, especially now, of course, making music is easier than ever, and
Yeah.
finding the right tools and tips and
Well,
places you can do it. Is the competition really high, or is it still pretty open for people who
I
are
just think that
definitely getting started?
there's so much film being created that it's like there's just so much of it of all genres, right? Like I got friends that I know that they have a rock band, and they submitted all their songs and stuff, and they get occasional licenses. Like it's not like that big. Now they're starting to actually understand that they need to make not just their songs, because first it was like, oh, I want my song to be on TV. It sounds cool, but now they're like, wait a second, we can do instrumental tracks and that kind of stuff. So and like they do that genre, right? So there's just so much of it. I mean, I think it's also just I think it's such a thin field when you got 90% of people fighting for getting on, whatever album, because that's when I was, of course, that's what I wanted. I spent like years like just trying to get on all these like R&B albums, working with all these songwriters and stuff, and that's what everyone was focused on. No one was even thinking about licensing, so it was like a whole open field of stuff, because you either got like people who've been in it, or like the older folks who have like certain deals already. But out of the new people, like they need all this stuff. So I think that there's just so much potential still, like especially in the next 10 years, it's a perfect avenue to build, because first of all, it doesn't take much of your time. It's been like an hour. I mean, aside from making the music, it's an hour a week. So like even, like all this stigma, just to segue into, I don't know, a rant, that's what I like to do, if you don't mind.
Drop it knowledge.
Just like there's this whole stigma around being a full-time producer or full-time musician. Like everyone has different situations, living in different, some people have a bunch of kids, like some people have, $8,500 of bills a month, and the mortgages and all that. So figure out for you, if you need to stay working your job, cool, but on the side, you create this avenue and it makes you an extra, couple $1,000s every quarter. That's money. Like go, like you got a $3,200 check, go buy some stocks for your, for the future, right? Go invest it in, save up, go take your family on vacation to Hawaii. Like invest it. Have a plan with everything that you do, and don't have it where it's like, oh, are you a full-time? I still work a job. Who cares? Like do it. You're doing this for you and your family. And once you start really realizing that, what you do it for, it adds up. Because just like, it started with a couple $100 and it turned into, buying property and more so, right? And I do it for me, not because I want to be on Instagram like, hey, check it out, because I need somewhere to fucking live. My family needs a place to live, And so it's very logical, right? So be smart with your money, understand and study, and then each thing will kind of, I don't know, progress.
Follow up. I think that's a good point, because you really got to remember who you're doing it for and why you're doing it, and whether you make no money, you make 100, you make thousands, like you're still pursuing something you love. And I feel like that's admirable, and sometimes it gets lost because it may not look cool. You may not be a full-time producer or working with these big industry artists, but I feel like the people who maybe just do this as a hobby and find something that they enjoy doing, or people who could, I don't know, buy an extra Chipotle bowl at the end of the week with the $10 they made off Beatz. Like it's all equal value.
Exactly. And I think, and if you want to go to, that full-time level, you have to understand the level of sacrifice and money you have to put up to build, like you're building a brand now, and, it's scary when people see it at first, like, oh, it's a lot of money, but like, yeah, that's the sacrifice you do. Like, for years, all my first royalty checks were invested right back into my business of building my online brand, because that's something that I can control, selling beats. So like, probably close to $100,000 spent on promo at this point, over the years. That's fucking house in some places.
Yeah.
So, and then if you're not that committed, it's like just no one's really watching you at the end of the day. Like you're doing it for you. I think that's the social media kind of fucks us up with everything, and people aren't transparent. I'm a very transparent person. Like people show like, gross and net. I see people on BeatStars who like to photograph, oh, check out my gross. Well, move over the camera to see the net, or talk about, what you spent, because that's what's real. It's great to motivate people with certain screenshots, or you just want to show off or flaunt. Like I've never had to screenshot, my PayPal statements, because I do it for me.
Yeah.
So
no, it's cool. I think authenticity pays off. Like, it may not appear cool, but really what matters to people and what's meaningful and this type of relationships you establish by being authentic will outweigh whatever temporary swag or cool points you think you're getting. So I appreciate you sharing that with everybody, especially as somebody who's had success in music and placing your music in TV and film. Like, even with you, it's not at the top of your mind. Like, at the end of the day, you're doing this for you, you're doing this for your family, and that's what matters most.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it takes time, and we all, when you're younger, we're always, experimenting and figuring out, we all have our own issues and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes it is cool at some point. It's like, okay, yeah, like, if I get a new placement, I don't go and check it. I mean, if it's like, cool, I got like 20 beats, I'm not gonna go like search for that ESPN episode. At this point, right? When at the beginning, of course, I was extremely excited and wanted to, see it and hear it and everything. So like, and like, I just feel I'm getting started, right? I have so much more to accomplish, and like, shit, I want to make my own movie at this point, so it's just like paying attention to everything and really realizing, like, balancing, your personal life, because you are this one person, you are wearing a lot of hats. You're a producer, you're an engineer, you're a marketer, you're, running a brand. Like, all this stuff is this one, and then you have all your personal life and shit to deal with, right? So it's tough. It's a tough balance, but you got to build a system, and you got to just want it bad enough, and understanding the quickness. A lot of people, they're dreamers, and it's so easy to kind of fantasize about something but not take action. Take action right away. Especially now is the time, because there's going to be a bunch of people who will quit, whether it's for personal reasons, right? Whether it's for financial reasons, whatever. So like, now's the time where, like, people always ask me, is it saturated? I don't know. I think it's saturated with a bunch of wannabes, but they're not actually doing anything. So when you're taking action and building and being, like, learning and doing everything that you need to do it, it's not saturated.
Yeah.
And all those people who are going to fall off or think that they're so high and mighty because they got all this stuff accomplished, they get lazy. So it's your time to come in. And I've seen people, like, really come in and be like, holy shit, dude. Like, I remember, like, a year and a half ago where you were and now where you are. Like, I respect that progress. I see that they put in the right moves, but I know they invested the money, they invested the consistency, everything. They've built, an actual brand, an actual following of people who give a shit about what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah. So if there's one thing, just to kind of wrap it up, well, first of all, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. You had the people that were watching had 1,000,001 questions, and I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them, you guys, but they also really appreciate it. And I just want to relay that to you, the fact that you were sharing the knowledge with us. But I feel like if there's 3 things that I've learned from talking to you both now and in the past, it's 1, be persistent. 2, make sure you remember why you do it. And 3, just keep trying until it works out. So I think those are really, really great messages to be authentic and keep trying. And at some point it's going to work out for you. Like, for you, it may have been 2 years. For other people, it could be a month. For others, it could be several. But at some point, if you keep trying it, you'll get to the point. So with that being said, you guys, I forgot to mention this earlier, but of course, Gummy Beatz is on Instagram. So be sure to follow him on Instagram. Sorry, I meant BeatStars, but he is on Instagram too at Gummy Beatz. Yeah, he's everywhere at Gummy Beatz, but make sure to follow him on social media, of course. And more importantly, follow him on BeatStars. His music's on there. He has some sound kits on there. He has some services. I know you do consultations and beat collabs. So if you want to keep talking to him and maybe get some one-on-one advice or want to work on a collab, make sure to visit him at Gummy Beatz, and Beatz has a Z at the end. So yes, Gummy Beatz, thank you for talking to us, and to everybody tuned in. We will see you at the next live show. So Gummy, thanks again.